Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to take up uh, Leigh Hunt's essay, and the essay is on the topic on which we all of us are very familiar with, getting up early on the cold mornings. Everyone knows that it is pleasant to lie in bed on cold mornings. No one wants to get up at such an earlier time, but one gets up only on compulsion. Leigh Hunt deals with this familiar experience in a mock serious manner. In the first part of his essay, Hunt marks about the familiar hellish torture that one experiences on getting up on cold mornings. The reason behind this punishment of tortures to show how lazy people avoid early rising and how do active people are motivated to rise early. In the second part, he puts forward clever and deceptive arguments in favor of laziness by quoting many examples and facts. For example, hellish torture. Everyone agrees that it is indeed very difficult to get out of bed on a cold morning. The sudden transition from warmth to cold is a hellish torture. One gets up only to compulsion. He compares this torture to happy-footed fairies dragging out lost souls out from fire and thrusting them into ice. Reason behind this hellish torture. Getting up on cold mornings and shaving are punishments given to mankind. For Adam and Eve had sinned against God. Before sinning, they neither had snowy winters nor Adam was compelled to shave. Then he moves on to talk about ways to avoid early rising by lazy people. Hunt sets himself as an example to show the ways to avoid early rising from bed. First of all, he starts an inquiry about the cold weather outside to his servant who has the intention to wake him up. Next, he commands to keep ready all the articles and dresses. Then he orders hot water for shaving and he finds excuses on saying that the water is too hot and so he needs some time for the water to cool down. Then at last he had no reasons to excuse and so he got up and was ready to shave. Then active people's motivations. Businessmen may get up early since they love money for then comfort. Businessmen may get up early according to Hunt because they love money more than comfort. Some people who are slaves to daily routine or rather machines like barometer would get up early to maintain their pride. He arguments in favor of shaving. He argues that shaving is a villainous custom since the cold razor is a contrast to warmth. Even Queen Eleanor divorced her husband King Louis of France because he had shaved his beard. So he states that beard adds impressive looks to men and argues not to get up early and shave. Argument again for pleasure of late rising. He marks about the poet Thomson, James Thomson, the famous poet, pre-romantic poet who has written poetry on seasons. And Thomson accuses a man getting up late. Hunt says that even Thomson himself used to get up at noon, thereby expressing his laziness. So, no one could refuse the pleasure of late rising. Then the argument for health. People say early rising is good for health, but Hunt says that there are no proof of this so far. But however, sudden change in temperature due to getting up from bed may bring shock to the body and thereby affect the good health of a person. Then argument for longevity of life. If in case early rising increases longevity of life, it is true. This does not mean that long things are beautiful. For example, the longest street in London, Holborn, does not mean that it is beautiful because it is long. Likewise, a short life with joys of late rising may be better than a long life with sufferings of early rising. Hunt has not moved the arguments to absurdity, nor he has advised to rise late. He just brings out the pleasures in late rising. James Henry Leigh Hunt was better known or simply known as Leigh Hunt, and he was a poet, critic, and essayist who was born in 1784. He was a friend of John Keats and P.B. Shelley. He went to Italy with them. His nightmare voyage took 8 months because of sickness and bad traveling conditions, it is said, and was an editor of the Examiner that was founded in 1808, going out of print 6 years after Leigh Hunt's death in 1865. The Reflector 1810-11, The Indicator 1819-21, and The Companion. Whilst at the Examiner, he published the article The Prince on St. Patrick's Day on 22nd March 1812, in which he wrote, in short, this delightful, blissful, wise, pleasurable, honorable, virtuous, true, and immortal prince was a violator of his word, a libertine over head and ears, in debt and disgrace, a despiser of domestic ties, the companion of gamblers and demiraps, a man who has just closed half a century without one single claim on the gratitude of his country or the respect of posterity. This earned him 2 years in Horsemonger Lane Jail, Surrey, where coincidentally Charles Dickens observed the hangings of Mary and Frederick George Manning, which moved him to campaign against public executions. Thankfully, however, Leigh Hunt was not executed. Leigh Hunt's essay Getting Up on Cold Mornings appeared in the Indicator in 1820, and the essay begins thus. An Italian author, Giulio Codara, a Jesuit, has written a poem upon insects, which he begins by insisting that those troublesome and abominable little animals were created for our annoyance, and that they were certainly not inhabitants of paradise. We of the North may dispute this piece of theology, but on the other hand, it is clear as the snow on the housetops that Adam was not under the necessity of shaving, and that when Eve walked out of her delicious bower, she did not step upon ice 3 inches thick. Some people say it is a very easy thing to get up of a cold morning. You have only, they tell you, to take the resolution and the thing is done. This may be very true, just as a boy at school has only to take a flogging and the thing is over. But we have not at all made up our minds upon it, and we find it very pleasant exercise to discuss the matter candidly before we get up. This at least is not idling, though it may be lying. It affords an excellent answer to those who ask how lying in bed can be indulged in by a reasoning being, a rational creature. How? Why? Why, with the argument calmly at work in one's head and the clothes over one's shoulder? Oh, it is a fine way of spending a sensible, impartial half an hour. Leigh goes on to write of the virtues of the man who remains in bed as long as he can, referring to it a little later as decumbency, contrasting him with those irritating folk who leap up despite sub-zero temperatures by saying, if they cannot entertain themselves with their own thoughts for half an hour or so, it is not the fault of those who can. The warmth, he adds, is only natural for warm-blooded creatures such as ourselves, and the cold brought about by this, quote, the inharmonious and uncritical abruptness of the transition, unquote, by those who force another to get out of bed on such a morning are, to quote Milton, happy-footed furies. Here there is a reference to Milton's Paradise Lost. So, on waking up one morning to find one's own breath rolling forth as if in the open air like smoke out of a cottage chimney, what must one do to avoid being dragged out earlier than one would hope? Leigh Hunt advises distracting one's servant, making him perform somewhat unnecessary tasks, one that has been exhausted. Yes, it is time to get up. At length everything is ready except myself. I now continue our incumbent, a happy word, by the by, for a country vicar. I now cannot help thinking sorry for interruption. Just a minute. Yes, some people say it is very easy to get up of a cold morning. You have only, they tell you, to take a resolution. But on waking up one morning to find one's own breath rolling forth as if the open air like smoke out of a cottage chimney, what one must do to avoid being dragged out earlier than one would hope. This is how lay questions, lay advises, distracting one's servant, making him perform somewhat unnecessary tasks, one that has been exhausting. Yes, it's time to get up. At length everything is ready except myself, says Hunt. I now continue our incumbent, a happy word by the by, for a country vicar. I now cannot help thinking a good deal, who can, upon the unnecessary and villainous custom of shaving. It is a thing so unmanly, here I nestle closer. So effeminate, here I recoil from an unlucky step into the colder part of the bed. No wonder that the Queen of France took part with the rebels against the degenerate king, her husband, who first affronted her smooth visage with a face like her own. The Emperor Julian never showed the luxury of his genius to better advantage than in reviving the flowing beard. Look at Cardinal Bambo's picture, at Michelangelo's, at Titian's, at Shakespeare's, at Fletcher's. He gives innumerable a number of examples of those people who had beard, and thus argues in favor of not shaving in cold mornings. So Angelo's, Titian's, Shakespeare's, at Alfred's, at Plato's, I could name a great man for every tick of my watch. Look at the Turks, a grave and otiose people. Think of Harun al-Rashid and bedridden Hassan. Think of Wortley Montague, the worthy son of his mother, a man above the prejudice of his time. Look at the Persian gentlemen whom one is ashamed of meeting about the suburbs. Their dresses and appearances are so much finer than our own. Lastly, think of the razor itself, how totally opposed to every sensation of bed, how cold, how edgy, how hard, how utterly different from anything like the warm and circling amplitude which sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses. Here he is referring to Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth. Add to this benumbed fingers, which may help you to cut yourself, a quivering body, a frozen towel, and a ear full of ice, and he that says there is nothing to oppose in all this only shows at any rate that he has no merit in opposing it. He refers next to John Thomson, author of Seasons, who used to lie in bed till noon because he said he had no motive in getting up. He could imagine the good of rising, but then he could also imagine the good of lying still. Will not men awake? It must be allowed, was made upon summertime, not winter. Motivation, after all, is an important part of getting up and braving the chill. And for that, Hunt says that a money getter may be drawn out of his bed by 3 and 4 pence. But this will not suffice for a student, because every person has to be made satisfied with different arguments and different reasons. Everyone needs different sorts of convictions. We need to convince them in a different manner. A proud man may say, what shall I think of myself if I don't get up? But the more humble one will be content to waive this prodigious notion of himself out of respect to this kindly bed. The mechanical man shall get up without any ado at all, and so shall the barometer. An ingenious liar in bed will find hard matter of discussion even on the score of health and longevity. He will ask us for our proofs and precedents of the ill effects of lying later in cold weather, and sophisticate much on the advantages of an even temperature of body, of the natural propensity, pretty universal, to have one's way, and of the animals that roll themselves up and sleep all the winter. As to longevity, he will ask whether the longest life is of a necessity the best, and whether Holborn is the handsomest street in London. We have already discussed Holborn Street. In fact, the only real motivation, the only thing perhaps worth getting up on cold mornings is a lady. She may flatter him out of bed, persuade and cajole him into it. Leigh Hunt concludes this little essay. Other little helps of appeal may be thrown in as occasion requires. You may tell a lover, for instance, that lying in bed makes people corpulent. A father that you wish him to complete the fine, manly example he sets his children. A lady that she will injure her bloom or her shape, which M or W admires so much. And a student or artist that he is always so glad to have done a good day's work in his best manner. Reader, and pray, Mr. Indicator, how do you behave yourself in this respect? And Indicator replies, oh, madam, perfectly, of course, like all advisers. That is, he only advises, but he rarely follows those advices himself. Reader, nay, I allow that your mode of argument does not look quite so suspicious as the old way of sermonizing and severity. But I have my doubts, especially from that laugh of yours. If I should lock in tomorrow morning. Indicator, ah, madam, the look in of a face like yours does anything with me. It shall fetch me up at 9, if you please. 6, I meant to say. There the essay ends, and with a fine and humorous or funny tone. This is Leigh Hunt on getting up on cold mornings. Thank you.